I moved to this small coastal town a few months ago. I was 32, hoping to find peace after a personal loss. I got a job managing a local bookstore and thought the quiet would help me heal. The town was quaint, with colorful cottages and twisting roads. It looked nice, but something about it felt off. I often went to the pier to clear my mind. The salty air was calming, but there was this strange tension. I could feel it crawling under my skin. One overcast afternoon, while I was organizing books, I heard a chilling wail cut through the quiet. The old siren blared suddenly. My stomach knotted with unease. I looked outside, but everything seemed normal. What could be wrong? In the weeks that followed, the siren sounded again and again, at random times. I noticed the townsfolk were getting jumpy. They whispered in hushed tones, exchanging worried glances. I overheard talk about flickering lights and shadows moving at dusk. Some even mentioned a shadowy figure appearing by the edge of town. I didn't know if it was just paranoia or if something darker was happening. One evening, I stood on the pier, watching the waves crash against the rocks. The unease crept back in. I listened but only heard the relentless waves. My heart raced. What was happening to the calm I had sought? As I walked home that night, the siren wailed again, pierced the night, rattling me. I jumped and quickened my pace, glancing over my shoulder. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I thought I saw a shadow cross the street ahead, but when I blinked, it was gone. I hurried home, wondering if this was the peaceful life I had dreamed of. Days turned into restless nights, filled with sirens that set my nerves on edge. Every time it screamed, my anxiety spiked. Was it a glitch, or something more sinister? I felt this connection pulling me deeper into the town's secrets, but I didn't know what they were. Then, one night, I sat in my living room, trying to distract myself when the siren wailed again. It sounded so close, echoing ominously. My heart raced as I stood up, peering through the window. When I froze. I saw a figure standing at the edge of the street, just staring at my house. I couldn't move. Who were they? Why were they there? The siren blared again, and I felt terror hold me in place. I knew I should call for help, but my voice wouldn't come. My hands trembled. I squinted, trying to catch a glimpse of their face, trying to understand what was happening. But all I saw was darkness around them. Suddenly, the figure turned and walked away, disappearing into the shadows. I was left trembling, the siren still echoing in my ears. What did this all mean? The need for answers gnawed at me, but I was scared. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong in this town. I had to know what was happening, but was I ready to find out? The next day, the sirens were swirling in my thoughts. I needed to learn more about the strange happenings. I decided to visit the town library, hoping to find answers tucked among the dusty shelves. Maybe there were old newspaper clippings or reports that could shed light on what was going on. As I walked through the side streets, the sense of being watched clung to me. I looked around but saw only the usual morning bustle, children laughing, people watering their gardens. Yet, I couldn't shake the unease twisting in my stomach. The library. The scent of aged paper filled the air. I found a small section dedicated to local history. I flipped through the pages, my fingers tracing the words. Most articles focused on the town's founding and its maritime past. Nothing alarming. But then something caught my eye, a faded headline that gave me pause. Mysterious disappearances linked to coastal siren. My pulse quickened. I read the article, written years ago. It spoke of people who vanished near the pier, just before the siren wailed. Locals believed it was a warning, meant to keep them away. The more I read, the more the chilling tale sank in. Several names were mentioned, a few familiar, a few not, but they all shared one common tie. They disappeared on foggy nights when the siren screamed. Suddenly, I heard footsteps. I turned to see a woman in a long coat, peering at me from the next row of books. Her gaze felt unsettling, like she knew secrets I didn't. I tried to ignore her, focusing on my discovery. But the air shifted. The woman moved closer, and I could feel her eyes. I turned back to my reading, trying to hide my anxiety. Interesting. Isn't it? She said, her voice soft but thick with something I couldn't place. They never really go away. The past has a way of lingering here. What do you mean? I asked, unable to stop myself. She stepped back, her face shadowed, yet I could see a flicker of something fear. Maybe? Be careful where you walk at night. The siren doesn't just warn. It lures, she said. And just like that, she was gone, slipping between the stacks that I felt my heart thundering in my chest. Was she warning me? Or just another part of the town's strangeness? I glanced at the clock. I needed to get out before the bizarre feeling enveloped me fully. I rushed to return the article to its place. As I turned to leave, I noticed something on the floor, a small, crumpled piece of paper. I picked it up, curiosity overtaking my caution. Scrawled on it was a name, Thomas Grayson, followed by a date exactly 20 years ago. A chill ran down my spine. Who was he? I had to find out. But as I turned to leave the library, I felt the unmistakable sense that I wasn't alone. The air felt heavier, and the whispers around me sounded more like warnings. I hurried out into the daylight, feeling the weight of the town's secrets pressing against me. Then, just as I stepped outside, the siren blared again, sending a wave of dread through me. I looked up at the sky, dark clouds gathering ominously overhead. The mystery deepened, and I was knee-deep in something I didn't yet understand. But whatever it was, I couldn't ignore it. I had to uncover the truth. And time was running out. I barely slept that night. The image of Thomas Grayson haunted me, a name I couldn't shake. Who was he? Why did his missing person report carry so much weight? The siren's wail echoed in my mind, and I felt an urgency to learn more. The next day, I decided to dig deeper. I headed to the spot where the old pier stood. It was a stretch of weather-beaten wood along the water, barely maintained. A few fishermen cast lines into the gray sea, oblivious to my turmoil. I thought maybe standing there would help connect some dots. As I stepped onto the pier, a sense of isolation washed over me. I peered into the churning water below, searching for clues within the waves. My thoughts soon turned dark. What if Grayson was down there? What if others were too? The chill in the air seemed to whisper secrets. After a few moments, I noticed a small, weathered memorial plaque set against the railing. Curiosity piqued, I moved closer. It bore the name Thomas Grayson. The date of his disappearance was engraved beneath his name exactly 20 years ago to the day. My stomach twisted at the coincidence that I leaned against the railing, absorbing the weight of his loss. As I stood there, I felt the beginnings of dread lurking behind me. I turned, half expecting to see the woman from the library. Instead, I found a child, no older than 10, staring at me with wide, serious eyes. "Why are you sad?" he asked, breaking the stillness that I didn't know how to answer him. I was trying to figure it out myself. Just thinking about someone I finally managed. "People disappear here," he said, pointing to the plaque. "The siren takes them." His voice carried an innocence that made my heart ache. "Even at night, she sings." "What do you mean?" I asked, anxious for clarity. "My mom says if you listen too closely, you'll go to her." He stepped closer, his small frame trembling slightly. "She makes you believe. She sounds beautiful, like a mermaid. But then, you're gone." A shiver ripped through me. The stories weren't just stories. They were warnings. I fought the urge to look over my shoulder. "Do you hear her?" I pressed, trying to stay calm. The boy shook his head, his brow furrowing. "Only at night. But sometimes I think she's calling me." His eyes darted toward the horizon, where the gray clouds curled ominously, blocking the sun. "Has anyone ever found Thomas?" I asked, my heart racing. "Not really." He shrugged, a look of sadness crossing his young face. "But some people say they see him in the fog, walking along the shore." My breath hitched. I wanted to tell him it was just tales to scare kids, but deep down, it felt too real. What if he was right? I caught sight of something flickering in the distance. My heart pounded as I focused. Was it a light? I squinted, trying to discern what was happening. Then everything shifted. The boy suddenly turned pale, his eyes widening in fear. "Run!" he screamed, darting away from me. Before I could ask why, the air shimmered and the fog rolled in thick, wrapping around me like a cold embrace. I couldn't see past my own hands. Panic surged. Someone was out there, moving through the mist. I had to escape. But as I turned, the siren wailed again, a haunting call resonating through the fog. The time for answers was running out, and a new question loomed over me. What was lurking in the shadows? I stumbled back toward the pier's edge, trying to maintain my balance as the fog thickened. The cold air felt alive, swirling around me, carrying whispers that sent chills down my spine. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing the fear to fade, but it only grew stronger. I had to find a way out. "Thomas?" I called out, although my voice felt like a fragile thread lost in the mist. The boy's face was etched in my mind, his warning echoing louder than the wailing siren. The idea of him running away, terrified, made me feel even more trapped. There was a rustling sound. Something moved behind me in the fog. Panic surged through my veins. I spun around, heart hammering, half expecting to see the boy reappear or something monstrous lurking just out of sight. But I was alone, swallowed by the gray. Just when I thought I might cry out again, the silence was broken. A low melody floated through the air, a soft, enchanting sound that rolled across the water, beckoning like a familiar lullaby. The siren's song. My breath caught in my throat. I fought the urge to follow it. "What do I do?" I murmured, stepping back closer to the edge. I thought of the child, of his warning, but something deep inside compelled me to step forward. The notes wrapped around me, as if pulling me toward the sea. Then, I heard it, a voice rising above the melody, clear and full of yearning. "Help me, please." It was weak, almost a whisper. The sensation of being watched crept over me, the hairs on my arms standing on end. It wasn't just the siren. Someone was here, close. "Who are you?" I shouted into the mist, my heart racing with both fear and curiosity. The wind picked up, and droplets began to splatter against my skin. Again, the haunting call echoed. "Help me, I'm lost." I took a shaky step forward, fighting every instinct to run. Then I saw it, a faint outline shimmering through the fog. A figure, moving slowly, shadows weaving around it like tendrils of smoke. My pulse quickened. "Thomas?" I called again, more confidently this time. "Is that you?" The figure halted. Silence blanketed everything, tension coating the air. "Yes, help me." It was him. I felt it, as if a weight had lifted. But as I approached, a sense of dread washed over me. This was not an innocent plea. There was something wrong, something that sent a warning shiver down my spine. Just then, the song began to change, turning darker, maddening, its beauty twisting into something sinister. The fog thickened, pressing in from all sides, threatening to swallow me whole. I hesitated, torn between the urge to flee and the almost magnetic pull of the voice. "I'm coming," I whispered, taking another step into the murky haze. But as I did, I felt something cold brush against my shoulder. A hand? No, it couldn't be. I whirled around, a scream lodged in my throat, the realization hitting me. This siren was not just a phantom like the stories suggested. Someone, or something, awaited me in the shadows. I had stumbled into a trap, and the second the fog deepened further, I knew I might not make it out alive. Before I could react, a shrill scream pierced through the fog, a sound that was both familiar and terrifying. My heart dropped. Someone was in danger, and it wasn't just me anymore. I had to find out who it was, to fight against whatever was lost in this mist. Just as I prepared to run, everything went dark. I gasped, the darkness swallowing me whole. The absence of light was overwhelming, like a blanket drawn tight over my head. I stumbled, arms flailing as I tried to find my way back to solid ground. Fear gripped me, the memory of the boy's voice echoing in my mind. "Help me!" I forced myself to stand still, the dense silence filling me with a sense of dread. I needed to focus to remember that I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, welcoming the cold air. It still smelled like the ocean, salty and metallic. Then, a small flicker of light danced in the distance, like a firefly caught in fog. I squinted, the glow pulling me forward against my better judgment. Each step brought a query to mind. Was it Thomas? Or was it part of the trap? I approached the light cautiously, the fog swirling around me like a living thing. Memories of the Siren's song twisted in my head, and I fought the urge to call out again. I needed to stay quiet, to remain hidden. Suddenly, the ground beneath me dipped, and I went tumbling into an unexpected hollow. I hit the damp earth with a thud, gasping as the wind was knocked from my lungs. My heart raced. I squeezed my eyes shut, terrified of what might lurk above. Just as I began to push myself up, I heard a second voice. This one didn't sound like the boy's. It was low and gravelly, echoing off the walls of this hidden space. "You're not supposed to be here," it rasped. My stomach twisted. "Who are you?" I choked out, panic threatening to rise again. "Time is a cruel keeper," the voice whispered, laden with an unsettling calm. "You should have listened to the warnings." Shivers danced along my spine. Warnings? I had more questions than ever, and the darkness made everything feel impossibly close. I picked myself up carefully, trying to gauge my surroundings. The glow still flickered somewhere in the distance, but now it felt deceptively remote. "Get away," I uttered, summoning some bravery. I took a small step back, but the voice only seemed to grow bolder. "Do you think you can just leave?" it mocked. "You've already been chosen." Chosen? I shook my head, denial washing over me. I didn't want to believe in any of the siren songs, dark figures, being chosen. I had to find a way out before the unknown claimed me. The ground shifted beneath me again, a low rumble vibrating through the earth. Panic surged anew, and I turned to run. The darkness wrapped around my limbs, heavy and thick, resisting my movement as if it had a mind of its own. But I had no time to think of that. I had to escape whatever this was. Then, with a clatter of stone, I collided with something hard. I stumbled back, squinting to see what I had run into. When I saw it, a large, glimmering object nestled within the dirt. A figure, stone and lifeless. My heart dropped. I reached out, fingers brushing against the cool surface. I recognized him, the boy from the dreams, eyes forever closed in a mournful expression. I pulled my hand back, a wave of nausea crashing over me. How had he ended up here? And what had he been trying to warn me about? I was no longer just scared. I was terrified. I stumbled back from the statue, my heart racing as confusion clawed at my mind. The murky depths of the hollow felt like a grave, closing in on me. I had to make sense of this. How was he here? Why did it matter? But the more I thought, the more the panicked voice in my head screamed at me to leave. I took a step away from the statue, my back hitting the damp wall of the hollow. The low voice echoed again, seeming to swirl around me like a chilling breeze. "You seek answers, but they are not for you," it taunted. "Stop," I shouted, my own voice surprising me. I wasn't sure what I was expecting, but the darkness pressed against my ears, swallowing my words. Then suddenly, the flickering light grew closer, illuminating part of the hollow. I squinted, trying to decipher what else lay hidden in the shadows. My eyes widened as I made out more figures in the dirt, other lifeless statues, each eerily similar to the boy. Souls trapped, memories frozen in time. Fear constricted my throat, but curiosity pulled me forward. I didn't want to look, but I felt compelled. If I could find out what had happened, maybe I could escape this nightmare. The light glimmered further, revealing a crude etching on the wall beside the statues. I leaned closer, squinting in the dimness. There was a symbol, the same one I had seen back in town, on the town hall clock. My mind raced with connections. The Siren's song, the boy's face, and now this. "Do you understand, dear?" The voice was near now, rasping from somewhere I couldn't see. "This was always your fate." Panic rose again, but I forced myself to think. "What do you want?" No, not what I want. "What you want," it said with a dark chuckle that made me shiver. Every muscle in my body screamed to run, but my feet wouldn't obey. I knew I had to get out, yet I felt trapped, caught between the chilling reminder of who the boy was and what this place signified. The air grew colder, oppressive, and then, with a sudden, jarring clatter, the ground shook violently. I stumbled, barely catching myself as dirt and stones fell from the ceiling above. It felt like the earth was alive, shifting and writhing beneath me. I screamed again, the sound cutting through the silence. "Help! Someone help me!" Then I heard a distant echo of a voice, faint but real. "I'll find you." The sound was almost swallowed by the chaos, but it pulsed with undeniable urgency. Could it be Thomas? My hope flared, battling my fear as I glanced back at the statues, each telling their own story of warning. Images of faces, mouths open in silent screams, loomed large. I had to choose: stay and search for the truth, or seek the voice and find a way out. When I felt a cold hand on my shoulder I froze, eyes wide with terror. I whipped around, my breath hitching in my throat. The hand lingered, ice cold against my skin, and I was struck by a thought: I was not alone. The figure emerged from the shadows, just enough for me to see a slight outline against the faint light. It was too dark to make out any details, but I felt the weight of its presence like a thick fog wrapping around me. My heart pounded as I struggled to find my voice. "Who are you?" The shape chuckled, a sound that sent chills racing down my spine. "Something that complicates your little search for the truth." I wanted to back away, but the wall stopped me. "What do you mean?" I said, forcing the words through clenched teeth. "Curiosity is a dangerous game here," it replied, its tone mocking. "You think you want to find the boy? To save him? But the harder you search, the deeper you sink." I shook my head, fighting against the panic rising within me. The echo of Thomas's voice rang in my ears. I had to keep going, keep searching. If I can just understand now that I've seen the statues, I can. The figure moved closer, and I instinctively raised my arms. "Stay back," I shouted, but the air around me felt charged, heavy with secrets that threatened to consume me. "And what prize do you think awaits you?" It hissed. "Death is only the beginning." Before I could react, it lunged at me, and I stumbled backward, my hands slipping over the rough stones of the wall. I barely regained my footing when the ground shook again, this time with a low rumble that felt like a warning. The statues seemed to shift in the flickering light, their faces warping as if they were watching me, silent witnesses to my fate. I felt the urge to reach for one, to touch the cold stone, to understand its story. But a voice in my head screamed that it was a trap. Just when I thought I'd be swallowed by the darkness, I spotted a glimmer of movement in the corner of my eye. It was a small, silver object half buried in the dirt. I knelt down instinctively, desperate to find anything that might help me escape. My fingers curled around it, a pendant, engraved with the same symbol I had found on the wall. "Ah, the key to your doom," the shadowy figure mocked, the echo of its voice growing sharper. "It won't free you, just bind you tighter to this place." I looked up, fear surging through me as I clutched the pendant tightly. "No, I won't let you," but before I could finish, the figure lunged forward with a sudden burst of movement. I dropped the pendant in shock, and it clattered against the stone floor, the sound echoing like a bell tolling. Suddenly, everything went dark. The flickering light snuffed out, leaving me in an abyss of sound and confusion. I felt the floor give way below me, and a scream tore from my lips just as I fell into the unknown. Then I heard it again, Thomas's voice, resonating in the void. "I'll find you." But fear coursed through me as I drifted into nothingness. What if he never found me? I crashed into something solid, jolting me back to reality. The ground felt uneven, and a cloud of dust engulfed me. I gasped, coughing and trying to adjust my eyes to the dimness. There were no shadowy figures, no icy hands, just a sense of stillness that was almost suffocating. Slowly, I pushed myself up, brushing dirt off my clothes. Panic surged as I realized I was not in the cavern anymore. I was in a narrow tunnel, flickering lights above barely illuminating the stone walls. I could still feel the remnants of fear clinging to me, my heart racing as I worked to gather my thoughts. "Thomas?" I called out, my voice echoing off the walls. No answer, just the sound of my voice slapping back at me like a haunting echo. I took a deep breath and cursed myself for being so reckless. The pendant was gone, and with it I felt a sense of loss. I needed to find it, It felt like my only connection to this place. Would it guide me, or was it a trap, as that figure had suggested? Before I could dwell on this, a distant noise broke the silence, a faint clicking sound like stones scraping against stone. I froze, straining to listen. The noise got louder. My instincts kicked in, and I crouched behind a jagged outcropping of rock. Pressing myself into the shadows, peering around the corner, I saw a dim figure moving down the tunnel. The light flickered awkwardly, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls. My heart raced again. Was it the same figure from before? Why was it here? I held my breath, preparing to retreat if it got closer. Then everything changed. With a loud crash, the figure stumbled, revealing a familiar face illuminated by the passing light. It was Thomas. A wave of relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. He looked pale, his eyes searching the darkness as if he sensed I was near. "Riley?" he shouted, his voice tinged with desperation. Relief began to wash over me, but was quickly replaced by a sharp angst. I had to get to him, but how? Before I could move, another sound erupted this time. A loud roar followed by a tremor that rattled the tunnel. I glanced up, alarmed. The ground shook again, and pieces of stone crumbled from the ceiling. I felt the walls closing in, a reminder of my own fragile existence. "Thomas!" I yelled, pushing out from my hiding spot, thoughts racing. "We need to get out of here." He turned sharply, eyes wide with fear and concern. "Riley, I thought I lost you." But before I could respond, a blinding light erupted behind him, illuminating the tunnel with a searing intensity. I squinted, shielding my eyes. The next moment, I felt something move through the shadows. Then, just like that, Thomas was gone. I stumbled forward, heart racing. The blinding light faded, and suddenly, the tunnel was silent. Thomas had vanished. Panic clawed at my throat as I stood, frozen in disbelief. Where had he gone? I couldn't let fear paralyze me. I had to find him. "Thomas!" I called again, my voice trembling. It felt foolish, but I had to try. I strained to hear any sign of his return. Instead, I heard the unsettling echo of something else's footsteps, slow and deliberate, sent a chill down my spine. Were they his? Or worse, were they something else's? Holding my breath, I pressed myself against the cool stone wall, praying to remain invisible. The footsteps drew closer. I risked a glance around the corner. In the flickering light, I saw a tall figure, draped in shadows. It moved with an unnatural elegance, each step measured as if it were hunting. My heartbeat was a loud drum, drowning out every other sound. Yet the creature didn't seem to notice me. Continued down the tunnel, focused on something ahead. Suddenly, it stopped. I could see the contours of its form, sharp, angular, and menacing. My skin prickled as I realized it was searching for something, or someone. Couldn't he stay there? Not anymore. I had to find Thomas and escape. I backed away, slowly, careful not to make a sound. My instinct was to run, but I needed a plan. I turned and sprinted in the opposite direction of the creature, hoping to find a way out. Each step felt like a betrayal against those just seen. I glanced back. The figure remained still for a moment, then moved again. Darting into the shadows, still searching, I ran on, adrenaline driving me deeper into the unknown. The tunnel twisted and turned, branching off into darker recesses that felt even more claustrophobic than before. I never felt so utterly alone. Finally, my foot caught on something, a twisted vine or maybe a rusted chain. I stumbled, hitting the ground hard. Pain shot through my ankle, but I grit my teeth and pushed myself up. That's when I saw it, something glimmering a short distance away. With a shaky breath, I limped closer. It was the pendant. It had fallen from my neck and lay half buried in rubble. I grabbed it with trembling fingers, relief flooding through me. But then a thought struck. Thomas, could it have taken him? I clutched the pendant tightly as I knelt there, hesitating. What if the same magic that had brought me here could also protect him? I needed to know. But just as I made up my mind, the sound of footsteps echoed in the tunnel again, stronger now, more certain. My heart dropped. I wasn't alone. With newfound urgency, I pushed myself back to my feet, ready to flee. Just as I turned, the creature emerged from the shadows, its face illuminated by flickering lights. I gasped at its features I recognized from a nightmare I needed to escape, but the only way was forward into the darkness with unknown dangers lurking behind me. I could feel every nerve in my body scream at me to run. Instead, I stood rooted in place as the creature's gaze locked onto mine, and I realized this was just the beginning. I stumbled through the tunnel, the pendant clutched tightly in my hand, its cold surface grounding me against the tempest of fear raging inside. I had to find Thomas. He was still somewhere within this maze. Just as I started to move forward, the footsteps grew louder, echoing through the narrow stone passageway. My pulse raced wildly in my chest. I had to make a choice: continue searching for Thomas, or face whatever hunted me. My instincts screamed to run, but I couldn't abandon him. I couldn't leave high and dry the one glimmer of hope that had led me this far. I took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of courage left in me. "Thomas," I called out, voice shaking but loud enough to carry through the damp air. "I'm here. I will find you." A shuffling sound met my call. A response? I pressed forward cautiously, pushing through the tightness in my throat that threatened to choke me. The tunnel wound like a serpent, the flickering lights casting monstrous shadows around me, distorting my surroundings into a surreal nightmare. I could feel it, the creature's presence behind me intensifying, lurking just out of sight. I quickened my pace, hoping the sound of my footsteps wouldn't provoke whatever malevolence resided in these depths. "Thomas, please." My voice wavered, an almost pitiful cry against the oppressive darkness. Then, in the distance, I heard it, a whisper that seemed to trickle through the tunnel, broken and pleading. "Riley." The sound was soft, almost drowned by the drumming of blood in my ears. I forced myself forward, the echo of his voice igniting a fire within. "I'm coming." As I rounded a corner, a sudden tremor shook the ground beneath me, dust cascading from above. With my heart pounding like a war drum, I pressed on, the flickering lights revealing stone walls inscribed with strange symbols, reminders of those trapped within this place. Tales wrapped in dust and despair. "Riley, it's darker." I heard Thomas call again, his voice more faint this time, swallowed by the darkness. I felt a wave of urgency seize me. I had to act, to keep moving before despair could entrap him like so many before. Then the shadows began to twist. I felt an oppressive weight pressing down, as if the walls themselves were closing in. Suddenly, a loud crash sounded, sending shards of stone raining down all around me. I barely had time to react before I sprang into action, ducking as debris fell, but not without catching a glimpse of that grotesque form, the creature charging behind me. Fear surged as I darted forward. In a frantic moment, I caught sight of a flicker of light in the distance, a small opening. I pushed myself harder, forcing through the panic gripping my chest. "Thomas, keep calling. I'm almost there." The ground shook violently again, but I focused on the light ahead, igniting a flicker of hope. I could see it now, a faint opening, a way out. The whispered shadows danced behind me as I raced forward, desperate breaths escaping my lips. "Please, I can't lose you," I shouted, willing the words to reach him. Then, just when I thought I couldn't run any faster, I heard his voice more clearly. "Riley, hurry." I burst through the opening, stumbling into a larger cavern filled with glimmering shards scattered across the ground. My heart sank. There was no sign of him. Panic clawed at me as I searched wildly, calling his name until my voice caught in my throat. Then, I spotted a figure standing at the edge of the cavernous dim light. "Over here," I yelled, rushing toward it, heart swelling with hope. But as I approached, I could see it wasn't Thomas. It was a statue, a lifelike figure eerily mirroring the boy I had met at the pier, eyes locked in a forever captive gaze. My heart sank deeper into despair. How many had fallen prey to this nightmare? Just then, the shadows surged forward, and I felt its presence wrap around me, clawing at my mind. "Riley." I heard Thomas's voice once more, echoing through the air, but it sounded different, fainter, distant. No, I screamed. Clutching the pendant tight as the figure surged toward me, I jerked back, and, without thinking, turned to the statue about to be swallowed up in darkness. I couldn't allow it to take me too. No, I won't. With a surge of conviction, I threw the pendant against the ground, shattering it. A brilliant light erupted, filling the cavern, illuminating the shadows that pressed in close with an intensity that pushed against the darkness like a crashing wave. The shadows writhed and screamed, retreating momentarily as I ducked to the side, the light bathing the room in a surreal aura. In the heart of the chaos, I caught a glimpse of him, Thomas, inside the swirling mist, his eyes alive with a flicker of recognition. Riley, I'm here. But then, the ground beneath us shook again, more forcefully this time, crumbling my hopes. His figure was twisting away, the light flickering as I realized the truth. The light might save me, but it might not save him. Stay with me, I cried, reaching out. I could feel the pull of the shadows, their breath ghosting against my back. Time felt like it was collapsing around us. As I moved forward, I could see only half of him, trapped in the haze. Please don't leave me. My hands grabbed for him, fingers almost grazing his arm before an icy grip wrenched me backward. The force pulled me back into the shadows as I screamed. I surged forward, fighting against that dark force with everything left in me. I won't abandon you. And just like that, I was yanked into the dark, everything dissolving into chaos, light flaring for one last moment before fading away as I plunged into the unknown. I fell freely into a void, the echoes of despair lost in the dark. I may have escaped, but I could feel the tendrils of night creeping behind me, always there, always lurking. And as I plunged down, my thoughts flew back to Thomas. Had I really escaped? Or was he still here, caught in the echoes of a darkness that had claimed so many before? I landed with a jolt, the solid floor beneath me rebounding with the bang. Around me, reality shifted like a dream. Lightness and shadow played tricks in an eternal twilight, a new beginning filled with unanswered questions. I forced myself to rise, trembling legs giving way beneath me momentarily. But then I heard it, the voice in the distance, familiar yet twisted. I'm still here, Riley, Thomas's voice carried through. As I stood, uncertainty enveloped me, teasing the edges of the truth. The sirens howled in the distance, but I was no longer sure where they came from or if they were even real. I was left standing on the edge of understanding, only half free, caught between the fading light and lingering shadows. And I would always wonder what truly lay beneath the surface of this small coastal town, and would it ever let me go?